The conference hall floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure built by 47 different species working together. Inside, Ambassador Junho sat at the human delegation table, his hands folded calmly on the smooth surface. Around him, aliens of every shape and size argued in dozens of languages. The translation devices in everyone's ears worked overtime to keep up. Junho had been doing this for 15 years. He knew how to wait, how to listen, how to find the right words to keep peace alive. That was his job. That was humanity's way. They talked, they negotiated, they compromised. It had worked for 200 years. The Veltari representative stood up. His species looked almost human, except for the gray skin and the extra set of arms. His name was impossible for human tongues to pronounce, so everyone called him Commander Vec. He was not a diplomat. He was a soldier, and everyone in the room knew it. "The Dominion has made its position clear," Vec said, his voice cold and flat. "Humanity will surrender all colony worlds. You will provide us with your technology. You will reduce your fleet to cargo vessels only. You have 10 standard days to comply." The room erupted. Delegates shouted over each other. The council chairman, a being made of living crystal, tried to restore order by flashing bright lights. But no one paid attention. Junho stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but somehow it carried through the noise. "Commander Vec, humanity has never threatened the Dominion. We have no territorial disputes with you. Why are you doing this?" Vec's laugh was sharp and cruel. "Because you are weak. You talk and talk, but you never act. You have resources we need. You cannot stop us from taking them. This is how the universe works, Ambassador. The strong take from the weak." Back on Earth, Admiral Minho watched the transmission from the military command center deep under the Pacific Ocean. His jaw tightened as he listened to Vec's words. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of every human ship, every colony, every station. "He thinks we're weak," Minho said to the woman standing beside him. Hyjin, Chief of Intelligence, smiled without humor. "We've spent 2 centuries making everyone think that. Can you blame him?" "I can, when he's about to kill millions of our people because of it." Hyjin looked at the data streaming across her displays. "The Veltari fleet is moving. They're not waiting for negotiations. They're heading for Tau Ceti." Minho's hand clenched into a fist. Tau Ceti 4 was an agricultural world. 3 million people, families, children, farmers who grew food for a dozen human colonies. They had no military defenses because humanity had promised them they would never need any. "How long?" Minho asked. 18 hours? Can we get anyone there in time?" Hyjin shook her head. "Our nearest fleet is 3 days away. The public one anyway." Minho understood what she meant. The public fleet, the one everyone knew about. The small, peaceful force that escorted merchant ships and helped with disasters. Not the other fleets. "The hidden ones? Even our fast response teams can't make it," Hyjin continued. "We designed them to respond to threats near Earth. We never thought someone would be stupid enough to attack an outer colony." On the council station, Junho was still trying to negotiate. He offered the Veltari access to some technologies. He offered trade agreements. He offered to establish a joint research station. Everything he said, Vec rejected. "You have 9 days now," Vec said. "I suggest you spend them preparing your surrender." The transmission from Tau Ceti 4 came 16 hours later. The Veltari didn't use ground troops. They didn't try to capture the colony. They simply burned it from orbit. Their weapons turned the surface into molten glass. The 3 million people didn't even have time to evacuate. Junho watched the footage with tears running down his face. Behind him, other diplomats were arguing about sanctions, about resolutions, about formal protests. The Crystal Chairman was trying to organize a vote. None of it mattered. None of it would bring those people back. Minho stood in front of the United Assembly, Earth's governing body. 500 representatives from every nation, every region, every major settlement across all 12 star systems. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. "They killed 3 million of us," Minho said. They did it to prove a point, to show us they're serious. Our intelligence says they're moving on to hit 2 more colonies next. New Shanghai and Nova Seoul. That's another 8 million people. What do you recommend, Admiral? The assembly speaker asked. Mina activated a hologram. It showed military installations the assembly had never seen before. Shipyards hidden in asteroid belts. Weapons platforms disguised as research stations. Fleets that officially didn't exist. For 200 years we've pretended to be weak, Minho said. We did it to fit in. To make the other species comfortable. To prove we weren't the violent primitives they feared. We built this. He gestured at the hologram. We built it quietly. We built it secretly. We built it hoping we would never need to use it. He paused, looking at each representative. The Veltari have killed our people. They're going to kill more. Negotiations have failed. Sanctions won't stop them. Formal protests won't bring back Tau Ceti. We have one choice left.
Oh.
The debate was fierce. Some representatives argued for more diplomacy. Some wanted to accept the Veltari demands. Most knew that neither option would work. When the votes were counted, the result was clear. Earth would go to war. JUNHO received the order while sitting alone in his quarters on the council station. He read it twice, making sure he understood. Then he began composing the message. It took him an hour to get the words right. They needed to be clear. They needed to be final. He sent it on every frequency, every channel, every network that connected the civilized galaxy. 47 species heard it at once. The Veltari Dominion heard it. The Galactic Council heard it. Every human ship, every human colony, every human listening across the stars heard it. The message was simple. We tried peace. Now you'll meet the other side of humans. Then every human diplomat began packing. Every embassy started evacuation procedures. Every human representative in alien space headed for the nearest human ship. The galaxy watched in confusion. Some species were relieved. Some were curious. The Veltari laughed. None of them understood what was coming. Captain Nari stood on the bridge of her ship, the horizon's edge, staring at the message that had just interrupted her mission. She read it 3 times, not quite believing what she was seeing. Recall order, she said to her crew. We're to proceed immediately to Rally Point Omicron. Her first officer, a young man named Tai Yang, looked confused. Captain, we're in the middle of surveying the Helix Nebula. We've only been out here 8 months. What's happening? Nari pulled up the news feeds. They had been too far from civilization to receive regular updates. Now, as the ship's computers caught up with 8 months of mistransmissions, the story unfolded. The Veltari ultimatum. The destruction of Tau Ceti. 2 more colonies gone. The final message from Earth. Oh no, Tai Yang whispered. We're going to war. Not going to, Nari corrected. We're already in it. She changed course, pushing the horizon's edge to maximum speed. Rally Point Omicron was 3 weeks away. Nari had no idea what she would find when she got there. On Earth, Heejin was giving a briefing to a room full of alien ambassadors. These were the friendly ones, the species that had supported humanity over the years. They looked nervous. I want you to understand something, Heejin said. What you're about to learn doesn't leave this room. We're sharing this with you because you've been our friends, because we trust you, and because we need you to understand what's about to happen. She activated the holographic display. It showed human space as everyone knew it. 12 star systems, small defensive fleets, peaceful colonies, research stations, nothing threatening. This is what we showed the galaxy, Heijin said. Then she changed the display. The room gasped. Hidden shipyards appeared, massive facilities tucked inside asteroid belts and gas giants. Entire fleets materialized, concealed in deep space or disguised as civilian vessels. Military installations that had been registered as mining operations or scientific outposts revealed their true purpose. For 200 years, Heijin explained, we've been preparing for this day. We hoped it would never come. We did everything we could to make sure it wouldn't. But we're not stupid. We remembered our history. We remembered what humans do when threatened. an ambassador from the Kalari species, a peaceful race of insectoid beings, raised one of her many arms. How did you hide all this? Our trade ships pass through your systems regularly. How did we not see? You saw what we wanted you to see, Haijin said simply. Every merchant ship that visits human space is tracked. We know their routes. We know their schedules. When they come near something we want to hide, we hide it. When they leave, it reappears. Another ambassador, this one from a species that looked like floating jellyfish, spoke in a worried tone. You've been lying to us for 2 centuries? We've been protecting ourselves, Haijin corrected. Think about it from our perspective. We arrive in the galaxy, a young species with a violent history. Everyone is afraid of us. They watch us constantly, waiting for us to prove we're the monsters they expect. So we showed them something else. We showed them we could be peaceful. We showed them we could be trusted. But you were building weapons the entire time. Yes. Because being peaceful and being defenseless are not the same thing. The Voltari are learning that now. Admiral Minho activated Protocol Olympus from the command center. The signal went out across human space simultaneously. Millions of people had been waiting for this moment, some their entire lives. They had jobs and families and normal lives, but they also had a second purpose, a secret they kept. On the colony world of New Shanghai, construction teams removed the facades from 20 buildings in the capital city. Beneath the fake storefronts and apartment complexes were missile silos and shield generators at the research station orbiting Jupiter. Scientists shut down their legitimate experiments and powered up weapons systems that had been installed during the station's construction but never activated in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Hundreds of rocks that had been listed as mining claims suddenly began moving. They weren't rocks at all. They were warships covered in reflective coating that made them look like ordinary asteroids. The transformation took 6 hours. When it was complete, the human military had gone from 300 visible ships to 30,000 active warships. The galaxy's intelligence agencies scrambled to understand what had happened. The Veltari Dominion intercepted the human military communications and analyzed the fleet strength. Their analysts reported to Commander Vec with confidence. They have more ships than we thought, the analyst said. But our fleet still outnumbers them. 12,000 against their 30,000. We have superior numbers in our home territory. Vec studied the reports. Humans have always been clever with technology. What about the quality of their ships? Unknown, Commander? They've never fought a real war in space. Their combat experience is theoretical. We have conquered 27 species. We know how to win, Vec smiled. Then we proceed as planned. Mobilize the full armada. We'll crush them in one decisive battle and take everything they have. When Nari finally reached Rally Point Omicron, she couldn't believe what she saw. The empty region of space where she expected to find a small gathering of ships was instead filled with a massive fleet. Hundreds of warships, from small destroyers to massive dreadnoughts, floated in perfect formation. A communication request came through. Admiral Minho's face appeared on her screen. Captain Nari, welcome back. I'm afraid your exploration mission is over. We need every ship and every crew member. Sir, the Horizon's Edge is a survey vessel. We're not equipped for combat, Minho smiled. Check your ship's specifications again, Captain. The real ones, not the official registry. Nari pulled up the true technical documents, the ones that required her command codes to access. Her eyes widened. Hidden weapon ports lined the hull. Advanced targeting systems were built into what she thought were scanning arrays. The powerful engines she thought were for long-range exploration could also make her ship incredibly fast in combat. We're all equipped for combat, Captain, Minho said. We've all been preparing for this. The galaxy just didn't know it. Across human space, civilian ships were being retrofitted with weapons. Merchant vessels that had hauled cargo for decades revealed hidden compartments filled with military equipment. Passenger liners that had carried tourists became troop transports. Every human in space had trained for this moment. Even if they spent their daily lives pretending otherwise, the Veltari began their advance. Confident in their numerical superiority and combat experience, They had crushed species before. They would crush humanity too. What they didn't know was that humans had studied every battle the Veltari had ever fought. They knew Veltari tactics. They knew Veltari weaknesses. They had spent 2 centuries preparing for exactly this war in the command center. Minho watched the enemy fleet movements and smiled. It was not a kind smile. "They think they're hunting prey," he said to Hyjin. "They're about to learn they're the prey." The Veltari fleet arrived at Rigel Station expecting an easy victory. 800 ships against what their intelligence said was a small human outpost with minimal defenses. Commander Vec had sent one of his best admirals to take it. The Veltari admiral, Gren, studied the station as his ships approached. It looked harmless. A simple trading post and refueling station. Some cargo vessels were docked. A few small patrol ships floated nearby. This would be over quickly. "All ships, attack formation," Kren ordered. "Destroy the station and anything that tries to defend it." The Veltari fleet spread out, preparing to fire. Then the space around them suddenly filled with human warships. They appeared from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel with perfect precision. Not a few dozen ships, not even 100. 300 human warships, led by Admiral Minho himself. Kren's confidence wavered. Where did they come from? Our scouts said this area was clear. His tactical officer checked the sensors frantically. "They were hiding in the nearby nebula, sir. We didn't detect them because of the radiation interference." 300 ships, Kren said. "We still have more. Attack." The battle lasted for hours. It was nothing like the Veltari expected. Human ships moved faster than anything Kren had ever seen. They worked together with perfect coordination, as if they shared a single mind. Their weapons cut through Veltari's shields like they weren't even there. The Veltari fought back hard. They had experience. They had numbers. But humans fought differently than any species the Veltari had conquered before. There were no honor duels. No formal challenges. No mercy. When a Veltari ship was damaged, human ships surrounded it and destroyed it before it could retreat. When Veltari tried to board damaged human vessels, they found the ships rigged to self-destruct. When Veltari commanders tried to surrender, humans simply kept firing. Kren watched his fleet die around him. He sent desperate messages back to Dominion Command, but he knew help wouldn't arrive in time. His flagship took hit after hit. Systems failed. Fires spread through the corridors. His last transmission was simple. "They're not what we thought." Humans aren't weak. There, the transmission cut off as his ship exploded. For hours after the battle started, not a single Veltari ship remained. The human fleet had lost 0 vessels. 73 crew members were wounded. Not one had died. Across the galaxy, species who monitored space battles watched the recordings in stunned silence. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. The crystal chairman glowed with distressed colors. "We must discuss what we have witnessed. The human military capability exceeds anything in our records. By a factor of 10. A council member from the Tarathi, a species known for their military expertise, spoke up. "It's not just their technology. It's how they fight. They use tactics that we banned centuries ago as too brutal. Overwhelming force. No prisoners. Complete destruction of enemy assets. Fighting a war of annihilation," another delegate said, horrified. The chairman turned to Junho, who sat quietly in the human delegation area. "Ambassador, can you explain this? Why are your people fighting this way?" Junho stood slowly. His face showed the weight of what his species was doing. "You want to know why we fight like this? Because the Veltari taught us we had no choice. They didn't want our territory. They didn't want a fair fight. They wanted to exterminate us and take everything we built. So we're showing them what happens when you threaten humanity with extinction." "But the level of force," the chairman began, "is exactly what's needed," Junho interrupted. "We tried peace. For 200 years, we tried peace. We negotiated. We compromised. We showed restraint. And what did we get? 3 million of our people burned alive to prove a point. So yes, we're fighting without mercy. Because mercy is what got our people killed. Captain Nari led her squadron of converted explorer ships on a raid deep into Veltari space. Their mission was to hit supply depots and cargo vessels, cut off the Veltari fleet from the resources they needed. Her ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a Veltari supply convoy. 6 cargo ships protected by 4 military escorts. Nari's squadron had 12 ships, all of them supposedly unarmed explorers. The Veltari escorts moved to intercept, probably expecting an easy fight. They learned the truth when Nari's ships opened fire. The weapons that emerged from hidden ports were military-grade, advanced, deadly. Taiyang, working the weapons console, hesitated. "Captain, the cargo ships are surrendering. They're civilian contractors." Nari checked her orders. They were clear. No exceptions. "Those ships are carrying weapons and ammunition to Veltari forces. Destroy them. They've surrendered. Follow your orders, Lieutenant." Taiyang did as commanded, but Nari could see the conflict in his eyes. This was what war demanded. This was the other side of humans that the galaxy was meeting, not the peaceful explorers and friendly diplomats. The side that understood survival meant being willing to do terrible things. The Veltari. Dominion responded with everything they had. The Empress herself made the decision. The entire Veltari armada, 12,000 ships that had conquered their empire, would strike at Earth itself. End the war in one devastating blow. The armada was massive. It took 3 days just to assemble all the ships in one location. When they jumped too faster-than-light travel, the energy signature could be detected across half the galaxy. Everyone knew where they were going. On Earth, Admiral Minho received the reports. The entire Veltari fleet was coming. Every ship they had, every weapon they possessed, it would arrive in 6 hours. "Should we evacuate?" someone asked. Minho shook his head. "No, we end this here." He sent orders across human space. Every fleet, every ship, every weapon platform, all of them were to converge on Earth's solar system. Humanity would make its stand at home. When the Veltari armada emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, they expected to find a desperate defense. A few thousand ships protecting their homeworld. A chance to win the war in one glorious battle. Instead, they found Admiral Minho waiting with the entire Earth armada. 30,000 ships in perfect formation, ranged in layers of defensive positions throughout the solar system. The Veltari. Empress commanded the fleet personally from her flagship. She stared at the display showing the human forces and felt something she hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. They brought everything. Her tactical officer said, "Unnecessarily." "So did we," the Empress replied. "All ships, attack formation. We have numerical advantage in our heaviest ships. We can still win this." The human fleet didn't move. They waited, still and silent, as the Veltari fleet advanced. The Empress wondered if they were afraid. If they were having second thoughts, then Admiral Minho gave the order. And the Urt Cloud Defense Network activated. Thousands of objects at the edge of the solar system. Things that looked like comets and asteroids and space debris suddenly came to life. They were weapons platforms. Railguns and missile batteries and energy weapons, all disguised as natural objects. The Veltari fleet was surrounded before they even knew it. The Battle of Sol began. And for the Veltari Empress, it was clear within the first hour that they had made a terrible mistake. The Battle of Sol ended after 18 hours of continuous fighting. The Veltari Empress watched her fleet die around her. Ship after ship exploded or went dark. Human forces attacked from every direction, coordinated by systems the Veltari couldn't match. The Empress's flagship took a direct hit that knocked out main power. Emergency lights flickered on. All around her, officers worked desperately to restore systems, but she knew it was over. "Send a surrender transmission," she ordered. Her communications officer looked at her in shock. "Your Majesty? Do it now, before everyone dies." The transmission went out on all frequencies, a simple message offering complete surrender. The Empress waited for Admiral Minho's response. When it came, his words were cold and final. We offered peace. You chose extinction. Request denied. The Empress felt ice in her chest. What does that mean? She got her answer as human ships closed in on her flagship. They weren't accepting surrender. They were going to destroy everything. She closed her eyes and waited for the end. Then, suddenly, the human ships stopped firing. A new transmission came through. It was from Admiral Minho again. Your fleet is destroyed, Empress. Your military is broken. Your people are defeated. If you want them to survive, you will order all remaining Veltari forces to stand down immediately. You will do it now, or I will finish what we started. The Empress understood. He had denied her surrender to make a point, to show her that humanity held all the power now, that her people lived or died at human mercy. She hated him for it, but she did as commanded. All Veltari forces, this is Empress Delara. Cease all military operations immediately. Stand down and await further instructions. This war is over. 3 weeks later, human fleets occupied key positions throughout Veltari space. They didn't conquer worlds or enslave populations. Instead, they systematically destroyed military infrastructure. Shipyards, weapons factories, military bases. Anything that could threaten humanity in the future, Admiral Minho led the occupation forces personally. He wanted the Veltari to see that the human military leader wasn't hiding behind his fleet. He was there, making sure the job was done right. Back on Earth, Ambassador Junho received delegations from frightened alien species. They came asking questions, seeking assurances, trying to understand what humanity would do next. The Clary ambassador was the most direct. Will you stop with the Veltari? Or are you planning to conquer the rest of us too? Junho looked at her calmly. We have no interest in conquest. We never did. We wanted to be part of the galactic community. We wanted friends and trade partners. The Veltari took that from us when they killed our people. But your military capability will remain, Junho said firmly. We'll never hide it again. We'll never pretend to be weak again. Every species in this galaxy will know exactly what humanity can do if threatened. But those who stood with us have nothing to fear. Those who supported the Veltari, he let the sentence hang. The Kalari ambassador shifted nervously. Some species provided information to the Dominion. They thought the Veltari would win. We know who they are, Junho said. In her office, Hyjin reviewed the evidence her intelligence network had gathered. 6 species on the Galactic Council had secretly helped the Veltari. They provided information about human trade routes. They shared intelligence about human military movements, the little they knew. They did it thinking the Veltari would win, and they would benefit. She presented the evidence to Earth's leadership. The room was silent as they reviewed the files. What do you recommend? The assembly speaker asked. Economic sanctions at minimum, Hyjin said. Cut them off from human technology and trade. Make them irrelevant. They'll feel that for generations. And at maximum, someone asked. Hyjin's expression was cold. We could do to them what we did to the Veltari. Make examples of them. Show the galaxy what happens to species that betray humanity. The debate lasted for hours. Some wanted harsh punishment. Some argued for restraint. In the end, they chose sanctions and expulsion from certain trade agreements. It was punishment enough. The 6 species would suffer economically, but they would survive. On Velter Prime. The Veltari homeworld human forces established a blockade. No ships in or out. No communications with the outside galaxy. The planet was cut off completely. Admiral Minho made it clear why. Until the Empress agrees to our terms, Velter Prime remains isolated. We'll allow food and medical supplies in. Nothing else. Your people won't starve, but they'll know the price of starting this war. Inside the Imperial Palace, the Empress raged. Her advisors told her to accept human terms, but her pride refused. She had ruled the Dominion for 40 years. She had conquered 27 species. And now humans, the species she thought was weak, had brought her empire to its knees. Captain Nari was assigned to survey a captured Veltari military base. Her team was looking for intelligence, anything that might help understand Veltari's strategy. What they found was much worse. In a sealed laboratory, they discovered biological weapons. Not just any weapons. These were designed specifically to target human biology. Diseases that would only affect humans. Toxins that human immune systems couldn't fight. Plans for deploying them on Earth in every human colony. Nari read the files with growing horror. The Veltari hadn't planned to just defeat humanity. They planned to exterminate every human in the galaxy. The colonies they destroyed were just the beginning. She sent the information to Admiral Minho immediately. When he saw it, his face went pale. "If we had lost," he said quietly to Hai-Jin. "We didn't," she replied. "And now everyone will know what they were planning. The galaxy will understand why we fought the way we did." The evidence was released to the Galactic Council. The reaction was immediate and intense. Species that had criticized human military tactics went silent. Species that had questioned the necessity of the war stopped asking questions. The Tarathi ambassador made a public statement. "We judged humanity harshly for their methods. We see now they were fighting for survival against an enemy that wanted genocide. We apologize for our criticism." On Veltar Prime, Admiral Minho received a message. The Empress wanted to negotiate. She wanted to meet face-to-face to discuss surrender terms. The location, the Imperial Palace on Veltar Prime itself. Hai-Jin reviewed the intelligence. "It's a trap, Admiral. She's going to try something." "One last act of defiance?" Minho nodded. "I know I'm going anyway." "Why?" "Because I want her to look me in the eye when she surrenders. I want her to understand completely that she lost, that humanity won, that we're not the weak species she thought we were." He assembled a small security team. Hai-Jin insisted on being part of it. "If you're walking into a trap, I'm going with you." The shuttle descended to Veltar Prime with the entire human fleet in orbit overhead. Every weapon was locked on the palace. Every sensor watched for signs of treachery. If anything happened to Admiral Minho, the palace would be destroyed instantly. The Empress waited in her throne room. She looked older than her years, tired and defeated, but there was still fire in her eyes. Still pride that wouldn't break. Admiral Minho entered with his team. He walked up to the throne without hesitation, without fear. The Empress stood to meet him. "He wanted to negotiate," Minho said. "Let's negotiate." The throne room was massive, designed to make visitors feel small. But Admiral Minho walked across the polished floor like he owned it. The Empress watched him approach, reading the confidence in his steps. This was a man who had won completely and knew it. "How did you hide it?" The Empress asked without greeting. "For 200 years you convinced us you were weak." How Minho stopped a few meters from the throne. "We didn't hide our strength. You assumed weakness was stupidity. That was your fatal mistake." The Empress's face tightened. "We studied you. We watched your systems. We counted your ships. We counted the ships we wanted you to see. Every merchant vessel that entered our space was tracked. Every diplomatic mission was monitored. We knew when you were watching, so we showed you what would make you comfortable, what would make you think we weren't a threat." "Why? Why go through all that effort?" Hai-Jin stepped forward. "Because we remembered our history. Humans have always been good at violence. We've fought each other for thousands of years. When we reached the stars, everyone was afraid we'd bring that violence to the galaxy. So we proved we could be different. We proved we could choose peace." "But you were preparing for war the entire time," the Empress said bitterly. "We were preparing to defend ourselves," Minho corrected. "There's a difference. We hoped we'd never need our military. We hoped the galaxy would accept us as peaceful partners. You proved we were right to prepare." The Empress sat down heavily on her throne. She looked at Minho with something close to curiosity. "What happens now? Do you destroy my people? Take our worlds? Turn us into slaves?" Minho pulled out a datapad and handed it to one of the Veltari guards to bring to the Empress. "These are our terms. Read them." The Empress read in silence. Her expression shifted from anger to surprise to confusion. "You're not taking our worlds. No. You're not demanding tribute or slaves or resources. No, you're dissolving the Dominion and dividing our territory into independent systems. 50 years of human oversight, war crimes trials for military leaders, reparations paid over time. She looked up. This is less harsh than what we would have demanded if we had one. I know, Minho said. We studied your previous conquests. We know how you treat defeated enemies. The Empress put down the datapad. Then why? Why show mercy when we showed you none? Before Minho could answer, alarms blared. Veltari loyalists burst into the throne room, weapons firing. They had been hiding in the palace, waiting for this moment. A suicide mission to kill the human admiral and take him down with the Dominion, Hai-Jin, and the security. Team reacted instantly. The fight was brief and brutal. Human training and reflexes overwhelmed the attackers in seconds. Bodies fell to the polished floor. The Empress watched it all from her throne, frozen in shock. When the last attacker was down, Minho turned to look at the Empress. She saw death in his eyes. The entire human fleet was in orbit, weapons locked on the city. One word from Minho and the palace would be dust. Your people just gave me every reason to destroy this world, Minho said quietly. I could order orbital bombardment right now. Turn this entire city to ash, and no one in the galaxy would question it. The Empress waited for the order. For the end? Instead, Minho holstered his sidearm, but I won't. Because unlike you, we remember what it means to be civilized. We remember that war has rules, that even defeated enemies deserve dignity. Your loyalists made their choice. You and your people don't have to die for it. He walked back to the throne and picked up the datapad. Sign the treaty, Empress. Accept the terms. Let your people rebuild under human guidance. Or refuse and watch everything burn. Your choice. The Empress looked at him for a long moment. Then she took the pad and placed her mark on it. The Veltari Dominion officially surrendered. The Galactic Council met 3 days later with a new structure. The 6 species who had supported the Veltari were expelled. Their seats were given to species who had remained neutral or supported humanity. New treaties were signed with Earth at the center of every major agreement. Ambassador? Junho stood before the council wearing formal diplomatic robes. But everyone in the room knew the truth. Earth didn't ask for permission anymore. Earth stated what would happen, and the galaxy adjusted accordingly. The Veltari Dominion is dissolved, Junho announced. Former Dominion territories are now independent systems under temporary human administration. War crimes trials will begin next month. We invite neutral observers from any species who wishes to ensure the trials are fair. Crystal Chairman glowed softly. Ambassador, there are concerns. Your military capability is now well known. How can we be certain humanity won't use that power to threaten others? Junho smiled sadly. You can't be certain. That's the lesson you should all learn from this. We spent 200 years proving we were peaceful. We negotiated, we compromised, we showed restraint at every opportunity. And the moment someone decided we were weak enough to destroy, they tried to exterminate us. We'll never put ourselves in that position again, so you'll rule through fear. A delegate asked. Oh, Junho replied firmly. We'll exist as we are, peaceful but powerful, diplomatic but not defenseless. We want the same things we always wanted. Friendship, trade, cooperation. But now everyone knows the cost of threatening us. That's not fear. That's honesty. Admiral Minho retired from active military command 6 months after the war ended. He had done what needed to be done, but it weighed on him. In a private conversation with Captain Neri, he admitted his feelings. I wish they had accepted peace, he said quietly. I wish we could have stayed the way we were. Hidden and safe and peaceful. Neri understood. She had felt the same weight. Do you regret what we did? No. I regret that it was necessary. But I don't regret defending our people. If I had to do it again, I would. Does that make me a monster? It makes you human, Nari said. We're capable of great kindness and terrible violence. The Veltari learned that. The galaxy learned that. Maybe that's not such a bad lesson. Hai-Jan continued her intelligence work with a new mission. Her network monitored every species in the galaxy, watching for threats. Not to dominate them, but to ensure humanity would never be caught. Unprepared again, she built relationships with intelligence agencies from friendly species, shared information about mutual threats, created a network of cooperation and trust. But always she kept humanity's secrets close. The galaxy knew Earth was powerful now, but they didn't know everything. Some advantages needed to stay hidden. On Earth, they built the Museum of the Last Peace. It stood near the ruins of the old United Nations building, a reminder of humanity's long journey from divided planet to unified interstellar. Civilization. The museum told the story of the war, the diplomatic efforts that failed, the colonies that died, the battles that decided humanity's future. And at the center of the main hall stood a simple display, the final transmission that changed everything. We tried peace. Now you'll meet the other side of humans. Ambassador Junho gave the dedication speech to a crowd of millions, both human and alien. We are a species of contradictions, he said. We can create beautiful art and terrible weapons. We can show great mercy and ruthless violence. For 200 years, we tried to show only our better nature to the galaxy. We thought if we were peaceful enough, diplomatic enough, reasonable enough, we would be safe. He paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. The Veltari taught us a hard truth. In this universe, being peaceful isn't enough. Being right isn't enough. Being reasonable isn't enough. You must also be strong enough to defend yourself. Strong enough that your enemies fear the cost of attacking you. The museum became a place of pilgrimage for species across the galaxy. They came to understand humanity, to see the full picture of what humans could be. Many left with new respect. Some left with fear. All left with understanding. 10 years after the war, a new species made first contact with humanity. The R'Lani were explorers, much like humans had been when they first reached the stars. Young, curious, optimistic about the galaxy they were joining. Their ships approached. Human space, broadcasting messages of peace and friendship. They were welcomed to a human station where a diplomat greeted them warmly. The lead R'Lani, and being named Kesla, was excited. We've heard so much about humanity, your art, your culture, your achievements. We hope to learn from you and share our own knowledge. The human diplomat, a woman named Soman, smiled genuinely. We're happy to meet you. We hope we can be friends. Kesla had done research before arriving. Your people have a fascinating history. We noticed you maintain a very large military for a species that seems so peaceful. May I ask why? Soman's smile became sadder. She pulled up a hologram showing the memorial on Earth. We learned that being peaceful and being defenseless are not the same thing. We tried being peaceful without being strong. People we cared about died because of it. We won't make that mistake again. You don't seem hostile, Kesla said, confused.
No, we're not.
We welcome friendship. We want cooperation and mutual benefit. We want to share knowledge and culture with species like yours. Stoman's expression became serious. But we also want you to understand something important. If you choose to be our friends, you'll find humans to be loyal, generous, and trustworthy. We'll stand with you in hard times. We'll help you when you need it. And if we choose to be enemies? Kesla asked carefully. Soman pulled up footage of the Battle of Sol, the massive fleets, the overwhelming firepower, the complete destruction of the Veltari Armada. Then you'll meet the other side of humans. And I promise you, you won't like what you find. Kesla watched the footage in silence. When it ended, she looked at Salman with new understanding. You're giving us a choice. You always give a choice, Salman said. That's the lesson we learned. Peace is a choice, not a weakness. Friendship is a choice, not a surrender. We offer both freely. But we also offer a warning. Choose wisely. R'Lani chose friendship. So did many species after them. The galaxy had learned what humanity could do when threatened. Most decided they preferred to see the other side of humans, the side that built and created and cooperated. But the memory of the war remained. The museum stood as a reminder. The fleet patrolled as a deterrent. And humanity moved forward into the future. Peaceful, but prepared, diplomatic, but dangerous. Forever carrying both sides of their nature, the last exhibit in the museum was a quote from Admiral Minho. Written in his own hand, "We tried to be better than our violent past. We succeeded, but we never forgot what we're capable of when we must fight." That memory, that duality, that's what makes us human. And that's what keeps us free.